Welcome to the AI Ireland podcast, the show where we explore the fascinating world of artificial intelligence and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, and I'm thrilled to have you joining us today. Each week, we delve into the cutting-edge developments, breakthrough technologies, and innovative applications of AI right here in Ireland and beyond. As Ireland emerges as a global hub for AI research and development, we are here to bring you insightful conversations with leading experts, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who are at the forefront of this exciting revolution. So get ready to expand your knowledge and be inspired by the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoy what you hear, we'd love it if you could leave us a review and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. Together, let's spread the AI revolution. Hey everybody, it's Mark Kelly here, founder and CEO of AI Ireland. Hope you're doing really well wherever you are in the world today. And our guest today is Jean de Villiers. Jean is Head of Analytics at SAS Ireland. Jean, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Mark. Thanks for the invite.
For listeners listening in, you'll probably guess that Jean is from South Africa. So it'd be great to maybe start off a little bit about your background and how you came into the world of analytics and AI, and maybe start off from your home country.
Yeah, most definitely, Mark. So my story is a quite interesting story, but I think it will probably relate to a few other analytics practitioners. So I feel like I kind of stumbled into analytics. I originally started off selling software for a SaaS partner, strange enough. And at that stage, I was selling the software, but more going through fact sheets and try and highlight information, not really understanding the real depth of how analytics and AI works. And that actually got me to a point where I decided to upskill, and I went back to university and I did a full-time master's in business analytics. And that's where everything started igniting, and that's where things started flowing. I was in love with it from the first week, understanding the potential of descriptive, predictive, and all the different types. And that got me to a point where I wanted to go back into industry, but more in a consultative role, and actually doing technical work, applying it, and working hand in hand with the business. Just to give you some context, my undergrad was in business. So in South Africa, what we used to do is do a bachelor's of commerce, business management, and then an honors degree in the same thing. So it's also business management, and then you would go on and do a master's. So that's my background. It's fairly business as well as technical. Once I've done that master's degree, but I ended up further upskilling in certifications as well.
Yeah, it's good. I come from that kind of business background as well. And I think it's particularly interesting when you come from that business perspective, because when you're working in analytics or AI projects, you're always focused around what's the end impact, what's the result, how does the dial move from a business perspective. And I think it's ingrained into you from an early age in terms of this is what has to happen to move the dial forward for the business in terms of their key KPIs that have to be positively impacted. I think from a business side, you kind of get that different hardwired into you, and then to add in those different certifications and incrementally increase your knowledge in predictive analytics, and then later on machine learning can really add kind of really help the business itself. So I'm right in saying that you kind of did quite interesting work in finance and insurance in South Africa. And for people that may not know, the market is quite advanced there. Some of the work in terms of how they've been applying analytics and AI into some of the problem cases they've had within those industries, and then later came over to Ireland working in Idero analytics after that.
Yes, no, that's 100%, Mark. That's exactly the case. I actually want to give you a little bit of background about my experience of dealing in South Africa and doing business in South Africa, specifically in the data science space. And what you would typically find there is that it's really a riskier environment relative to a place such as Europe or Ireland. But with that comes more opportunities. So it's high risk, high reward, fast moving. Banking, insurance, most financial institutions are fairly advanced, not because they basically had to go and make sure that they advance more from a security point of view. South Africa has a fairly high crime stats all around. So in order to survive, you basically have to make sure that your security in your banking apps, security online transactions, branches, all of that it just needs to be a little bit higher. There's perhaps a little bit less trust in certain social circles, you could put it that way. So it was basically out of necessity that they had to advance. So yeah, it's an interesting place, and to compare that to Ireland, where I definitely see a much more trust-based culture. For me, it's worlds apart, and business basically gets done fairly differently between Ireland and South Africa, I would say. Yes.
And when you came to Ireland, you first worked, was again on insurance and more financial applications and projects where you kind of cut your teeth. Was there a kind of mixture of some government and telecoms in there too?
It was mainly financial institutions. Yeah, I was consulting on the banking space. That's where I did most of my projects. The projects were more related around, well, it was actually the full analytics lifecycle. Ended up doing work building predictive models, as well as putting those models in production. So working on the enablement side as well as working more towards the customer side and working on the campaign side, communications, those kind of things. So it's really a all-rounded, we could call it complete analytics lifecycle coverage that I got exposed to once I moved to Ireland.
So I think so usually from experience, you've kind of got propensity models and you've got kind of customer churn models, and then you're trying to kind of set customer segmentation in terms of really kind of understand who your customer is, when is the optimal time for them to buy a product or service or suite that's ready for them now, or maybe kind of more emerging for that future. And there's so many different ways to slice and dice that information and provide that. I'm guessing you probably found corporations and companies probably at mixed journeys. You know, some probably clinging on tight to Excel, while others are actually more kind of embracing the cloud.
Yes, no, there's definitely the mix is all around, and you'll actually be quite surprised of how people still use fairly basic BI applications and platforms, what we call advanced analytics platforms. Yeah, I think the potential to improve the analytics maturity in a place like Ireland it's there. It's just a case of getting busy, identifying these use cases, and that's also something I would like to talk to you about. Is well, one of the use cases is where we worked with a banking customer around improving that whole analytics lifecycle and getting to a stage where there's just great wins, reducing development time, getting those models in production. So that's something I wouldn't mind talking through. Yes,
before we go into that, Sean, would you mind just give us a brief overview about your role in SAS, some of the work that you do and your scope, and then maybe we can go into those kind of use cases, which would be great.
100%, Mark. So at the moment, I'm head of analytics, and that is kind of a mixture of role of customer advisory as well as customer success. So it's kind of a blend of the two. And what it basically means is when we approach a customer and we partner with them and we sell them a platform, it's important for us to convey that value that they'll be getting, and also the applications that they'll be able to tackle once they've got that fantastic platform before the sale. And that's the customer advisory role. It's basically helping the customer understand what they're getting from a technical point of view, also from a business requirement point of view, but really making sure that you sell them the right software, the right platform. And then customer success side is more around making sure that the customer then leverage that technology, leverage that platform to drive success. Because at the end of the day, I think the software industry has changed a lot. Previously, back in the day, it was more a case if you sell them software and you go on to the next customer, you sell them software, you go on to the next customer. But now we're in a space where it's important for us to maintain those relationships. If a customer is not utilizing the software, not getting the benefit of it, they're going to go to another vendor. So it is in the interest of both parties to make sure that there's success that's being bred out of the relationship, and that's also a fairly important, and it's a close to my heart part. I really love that because I'm a data scientist, I'm a statistician. I really understand where they're at and where they can go, and ideally how we will get them there. So it's really an informative, consultative, continuous learning exercise, and also the ensuring that kind of a bit of hand holding with the customer, making sure they get to what they signed up for.
Yeah, because it's always, when you think about it, it's kind of crazy. You go and help them on the journey to picking the right software, utilizing, put it into their product suite, or being able to get them up and running. But then you leave and you don't necessarily see the outcomes or the positive response or impact it's had. So you never really kind of find out, because it's the next problem that comes through. But if you can see the impact, usually the morale increases, more confidence increases to want to go and utilize different things across the business, work on different types of challenges or problems, and it becomes more of a next best action kind of environment, because it becomes more data driven. So you've been, we were speaking off air, talking about the importance of certificates, and you're one of the top certified people within SAS globally. So you put an awful lot of emphasis on education and being able to learn and grow. I'm guessing these certificates can really help show, well, this is the next level of technology, how you can help customers, because you can see how the dial has moved, and now how previously you might not have been able to utilize tech for this problem, but now the technology is there as an enabler.
Oh, 100%, Mark. Yeah, no, that's my reason for upskilling. What I realized in this space is things are moving so fast, and you constantly need to know what's out there, what's the possibilities. It is a consultative role, and you don't know what you don't know. So unfortunately, if you do study up and you do understand the deep technical skills and the knowledge that goes along with the technology, then when you go to your customer, you can actually help them, because I have built deep learning models. I've done forecast, I've done a propensity model, I've done the data management side, the wide data quality, all the way to digital marketing. You've been there, even if it's just from a theoretical point of view. At least you know where to go and what's the starting point. So it's super important in order to have a very broad knowledge base when you go to your customer, because then you can lead them to the right path.
So for the novices listening in, and you're like us all, trying to learn from experience, or there's a problem, and then you help them on a journey in terms of picking a tool or whatever that might be, helping them with the data infrastructure, and then they had a positive outcome, either maybe better customer experience, better access to the data, propensity, whatever, customer churn, whatever it might be. Can you talk us through an example recently where you've helped?
Yeah, so one of the examples, it is a customer that it's in the entertainment space, in the pay TV. So it's actually one of Africa's largest pay TV service providers. And they had an interesting problem or use case. They have a lot of customers. It was more than 5 million customers, and these customers can ideally be in different states, having different products. So there's with TV, you've got different bouquets. So you've got your premium at the top, and perhaps your more budget cost saving one at the bottom. And customers move. What we find is customers move between those, especially during certain seasonal events, such as sport events, when World Cup starts for rugby, for instance. Then people would go up to the premium one, because that's where they would be able to get access to that. But what we find interesting as well is there's a state where they move out of being a customer, when they actually churn. So what they had a problem. It was actually a optimization problem, where on the one side you've got your models that's really powerful in order to predict the propensity of customers moving between different states, and one of the states again being not a customer or an inactive customer. And on the other hand, you had to somehow, you want to take the customer to their next best action. What is the best thing for them? Where would they likely want to move? At the same time, ideally want to generate some business out of it. So it was really a case of, how do you do that? On the messaging side, it's important to get the message right, and you can't bombard customers with conflicting messages. You can't at the same time trying to save them when they're about to leave, versus trying to upgrade them to a different product. So the question there was, how do you get the right message to the right customer at the right time? And we used a SaaS product, SaaS marketing optimization, which is part of the SaaS customer intelligence suite. And we basically helped them build the models, get the models up and running. So to understand it, people moving between different states, whether it's churning or whether it's moving from a middle tier to premium. And then also on the campaign side, these different movements are mapped to different campaigns. One of the biggest problems was if you've got 5 million customers, you've got all these different states, you end up with something like 30 million different communications campaigns that you can send off. Now, with that, you've got all your different constraints and limitations. If you think about any business in that space, you've got call center that can only handle a certain amount of calls. You've got budgetary constraints because every communication, whether it's an SMS or email, has a cost associated with it. And then ideally, you want to put the right offer in front of the customer. You want to try and, if it's a discount or whatever the case, you want to get the right thing in front of the customer. So it was a big marketing optimization exercise. And we, at the end of the day, managed to do it to a point where we only sent one customer. So after the optimization ran, with the objective being to maximize expected profit, with a secondary objective of, but that's more aligned with customer success or customer satisfaction. Once you ran that, we ended up be able to limit the communication and reduce outcome campaigns by half. So where you would end up using business rules with maybe a little bit of guidance from propensity models, now you get the right message to the right customer and you cut your marketing cost in half. So that was a big game changer, I would say.
So am I right in saying so there's less touches, but they're more on point and relevant, costing the business less, and then the customer experience improves?
Spot on. That's exactly what it is, Mark. And that's another thing that I've actually found out, and I think most people notice it these days, but we are bombarded with so much information, there's so much noise. So if you think about even content on social media, it's really about quality over quantity nowadays, because there's just so much out there. And so I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what we're aiming for, to reduce the number of communication, get the right communication out to the customer that's actually going to help him. So that's it. Yeah,
I think we can all relate to that, because we've got so much choice. Most of us will have a variety of different packages. Maybe we have Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney as an example in our house, and you potentially might even have Now TV. So don't even sit down to watch something at the weekend. Where do you start? How do you pick that show? And then the user interface on some of those products, let's say Now TV, which I have no affiliation with, it makes it very, very easy to show what's relevant to you, because we want to engage with systems that get us. So that personalization piece. So I can always look at very similar content, such as Leinster Rugby messages coming through, because it's interesting, two things I'm interested in. So I'm always going to look at that content. But if it's hit and miss and showing me different things, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to want to engage with that provider more and more, because the onus is on them to work harder to get to understand my preferences and really kind of work around those, rather than a kind of hit and miss approach. Because the hit and miss approach, usually you'll just opt out because people are very, very time poor. Closing out the episode, Jean, tell us a little bit about AI for good and some of the work that you've been doing and SAS have been doing that have been kind of helping also from a societal perspective.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share a use case. One of the use cases which is quite close to my heart is a use case around wildlife tracking, and it's a use case that started off there in Namibia, and that is where a company called WildTrack, they utilize certain SaaS products in order to apply computer vision to footprints. And more specifically, the use cases around cheetah footprints, in order to track and monitor cheetahs. Because one of the most difficult things with wildlife conservation is actually tracking animals. You can't help, you can't protect that which you don't know where they are, the numbers, etc. And a lot of the more tracking footprints, for instance, understanding where they've gone, it's also a non-invasive way of tracking tracking wildlife. And so there's a use case around that. That's there to protect cheetahs. One of the things around cheetahs, and what people don't know, is there used to be more than 100,000 cheetahs 100 years ago, and now we've got, I think, 7,100 cheetahs. So numbers dropped drastically. A lot of cheetahs actually gets killed in Africa due to they've been mistaken to be able to, some of the natives mistakenly think they eat some of their cattle, or engage, kill some of their cattle, but cheetahs natively don't really do that. So using SAS and a wide variety of other technologies, what the non-profit organization WildTrack managed to do was track cheetahs effectively, and not just cheetahs. I think they currently have something like 41 different species that they track globally. So, and it's a crowdsourcing application where people take a photo with their phone, they send the photo in, and it gets scored in real time, and it gets labeled, and that information gets collated and fed together, and then obviously get sent out to the right authorities and the right people in order to take action where need be. So it's a fantastic use case. It started off there in Namibia, and it's something we can really it shows you how we can use technology to make a difference.
Yeah, it's a great example of technology for good, and I love the idea of people just having the phone, taking the picture, uploading it. Suddenly you've got scale, and you've got all this analytics that can work off that by using such as computer vision. Jean de Villiers, Head of SAS Analytics, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to your next one.
Membership of AI Ireland places your organisation at the centre of the fastest growing technology sector in the world today. As a member, you'll have access to our diverse and highly engaged professional community, which is committed to driving artificial intelligence forward in Ireland. Membership of AI Ireland is for any organisation employing data and analytics. We offer memberships to corporate, government and SME organisations. Interested to find out more? Contact mark@aiawards.ie.